The hatch opens at 7 a.m., and a tray slides through without a word. You pick it up and carry it to the shelf, the 8-inch slab of concrete molded into the cell wall that passes for a table on the capital side of Harrow. Eggs that have gone pale yellow from the steam tray. A square of cornbread wrapped in plastic. A cup of orange drink that tastes like the idea of citrus more than the thing itself. You've been here 7 years, all of it because you shot 2 men during a hardware store robbery on a Tuesday in late November, and both of them died, and the state concluded that warranted your death in return. You've stopped having opinions about that. It's just the situation now. 7 years of it, same breakfast, same hatch, same shelf. You suspect your case is the simplest one in the building. Most mornings you're certain of it. Not everyone on the row arrived here the same way, and not every crime that earns a place on the capital side looks alike. You know this the way you know most things up here. Slowly, through the hatch, in the yard, through walls at night. The yard is a concrete square about the size of 2 parking spaces. Your hour is scheduled to avoid overlap with most of the others. But you hear things. After 7 years in a 6x9 cell with 22 hours a day to fill, and a radiator that ticks once every 3 minutes, you've developed a working list. What gets a man here? How seriously the state treats each entry. It starts where you are and goes considerably further. Felony murder is at the bottom, which is where you sit. A death that occurs in the course of another crime, robbery, burglary, carjacking. You don't have to have intended anyone to die. In some cases, you don't have to have touched the weapon. The law assigns you the outcome regardless. You did pull the trigger twice, so the question of culpability doesn't really arise in your situation. But 4 other men on the capital side came in by the same route with different levels of direct involvement. One drove a car 2 blocks from the building when the shooting happened inside. He's been here longer than you have. You don't have any particular opinion on the fairness of that. Opinions on fairness don't produce results up here. Killing a law enforcement officer sits above felony murder in how courts and juries treat it, and the difference shows up from the first day of trial. Jury selection takes longer. The penalty phase carries a different argument. An attack on a uniformed officer is framed by the state as an attack on civil order itself, not merely on a person. 2 men on the row came in on this charge. One fills a new legal pad every few weeks, all of it appeal work, his pencil worn to the last inch before he requests a replacement. You've seen him in the yard sometimes, pacing a small loop, lips moving over something he's working out. The other man has not spoken audibly to anyone in 6 years, not through the hatch, not to guards, not during count. Both are still here. Child homicide cases produce death sentences at a rate that isn't matched anywhere else in the capital statute, except, possibly, rape murder. The law doesn't require it. The jury delivers it regardless. There are 2 men on the capital side, convicted on the killing of children under 12. The population of the row sorts itself around them without anyone organizing it. You walk past their cells during the yard rotation and don't stop, and you're not alone in that. One has filed for DNA reanalysis twice and been denied both times. The other had a commutation review 2 years ago that generated documentation, and then nothing. Both have been on the capital side longer than anyone else currently in the building. The state uses terms like especially heinous and torturous for the cases where the manner of death becomes its own aggravating factor. If a victim suffered for an extended period and the defendant was present throughout, the state charges that specific circumstance as a qualifier that elevates the crime to capital eligible even when other factors wouldn't reach that threshold. There's a man, 3 cells down, convicted on exactly that basis. The timeline his jury heard was measured in hours. They deliberated for less time than the victim was alive before coming back with a verdict. He's been here 9 years. In the evenings, you can sometimes hear him tapping the wall near his bunk, knuckles on concrete, slow, no pattern to it. Not communication, just hands that need something to do. You understand that one. Multiple victim cases change the mechanics of a capital prosecution in ways that single victim cases don't. More counts mean more opportunities for the state to establish pattern, more families in the gallery, more photographs entered as evidence, more specific acts read into the record. A prosecutor working 4 deaths has a fundamentally different set of tools than one working a single homicide. 2 men here came in on those terms. One killed 4 people in a single incident. The other killed over a period of months, which produced a longer trial because pattern evidence is harder to dismantle than an argument about a single chaotic evening. The first man is 3 rounds into his appeals. The second has years ahead of him. Both took trays from the hatch this morning. Same eggs, same shelf. Contract killing sits above multiple homicide on the list because the premeditation is total and it's usually documented. An agreement was made. Money changed hands. A third party managed the arrangements. By the time a contract killing reaches a jury, the state has financial records, communication logs, and typically the cooperation of the intermediary who brokered the arrangement. The man on the row for this came in with all 3. His attorney filed a duress claim that ran 2 years through the courts and was rejected at every level. The reasoning wasn't complicated. You do not retain someone to end another person's life by accident. He accepted this conclusion with a stillness that is, if anything, more unsettling than agitation would be. He sits in the yard without appearing to think about anything. You've watched him. You can't decide if that's peace or something else entirely. Kidnapping resulting in death produces a 2-stage capital case that juries process differently from a single-act killing. The first stage is the taking, the decision to seize someone and hold them. The second stage is the death, whether deliberate or a product of what captivity produces over time. When the victim is held for a long period before dying, the law stops treating the death as an accident. The man 2 cells over held his victim for 11 days. That number came up in his trial more than any other single fact. 11 days of decisions, not one impulsive moment. The jury treated the duration as evidence of intent. He runs his fingers along the wall during count, not touching the doors, just the smooth concrete between them. You've noticed this for 2 years. You've never asked about it. Nobody does. Rape murder cases produce death sentences with a consistency second only to child homicide in this state's capital history. The physical evidence in these cases is the most direct of any category, specific, biological, recoverable across years. The jury hears testimony that leaves almost nothing to inference. A man on the capital side arrived here before you did, convicted on DNA evidence recovered from 2 separate scenes 3 months apart. His attorney is considered one of the better capital defenders in the state. He has filed 4 complete rounds of appeals over 8 years, the most recent still pending. The man runs in the yard every morning, 23 minutes, same pace, same route around the perimeter. You've clocked it without meaning to. 8 years, and the routine is locked in. You understand this more than you'd like to admit. Terrorism cases involving mass casualties occupy their own legal space because the process around them is different at every stage from everything below. Federal involvement adds layers to the appeals that state-only cases don't encounter. Questions of ideology and intent generate litigation that standard murder trials don't produce. A man on the row came in after a bombing that killed 9 people in a government building and injured 22 more. His trial lasted 11 weeks. He has been on the capital side for 4 years, which is early. These cases routinely run 15 years from conviction to final resolution. He takes his hour in the yard without making eye contact, does not acknowledge the other men during count, does not pass anything through the hatch. Some people here get like that over time. You've stopped trying to read it as a specific thing. It's just a shape a person takes. At the far end of the list, rarest and in some ways the most absolute is treason during armed conflict, providing intelligence to hostile parties that results in the confirmed deaths of government personnel, functioning as a mechanism for violence carried out by a foreign power. The state treats this as murder conducted at a distance because the intent and the outcome are both demonstrably present, even when no hand directly belonging to the defendant held the weapon. There is nobody on the capital side of Harrow for this right now. There hasn't been in some years. When that changes, word will move through the hatch and the yard before the man ever arrives. It's in the statute, and you know the statute the way you know most things in here, not from looking for it, but from having 7 years and nowhere else to put your attention. You set the empty tray near the hatch. The cornbread wrapper is still on the shelf. You'll eat it before noon or you won't. The radiator ticks, pauses 3 minutes, ticks again. You stopped counting it around year 2. Some things become part of the room and stop being things at all. The list goes from where you sit to places you'd have said were beyond imagining 10 years ago. A robbery gone wrong, a uniform, a child, hours of deliberate harm, a body count in the single digits, then the double digits, a paid arrangement, a captivity that ran too long, an assault that ended a life, a building and the 9 people inside it, a betrayal measured in casualties, 10 entries, roughly ordered by how quickly the state stops looking for alternatives. You're at the first one. In a building full of men who went considerably further, there are mornings when that still feels like something. Most mornings it doesn't. The hatch opens again at noon. The eggs will look the same.